ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply.
Well, it's been a rough week. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. So last week's video, I kind of gave a last look of the water box in its current state. And I'm very sad to say that was the official, actual last look. So the week's been rough. I was moving everything out, redoing all our floorings. I took the tank down and put it in a temporary bin. And, you know, all the corals, fish, everything in there was happy. This was during the day and the afternoon. I had a bunch of buddies come over at night to help me physically move the tank. Move the tank out and, you know, awesome, you know, everything's out. Go back to check on the big tub of Bennett fish at nighttime, around midnight, completely milky cloudy. So I'm like, oh no, what happened? So I'm up to about 2 in the morning. I made a big brute can of water and did a big water change on it before I went to bed. Started refilling it so I could do another brute can in the morning. And same thing, just completely milky. I didn't see a single fish swimming, so I'm like panicking a bit at this point. So like, what the heck happened? And at that point I started pulling stuff out. But essentially the whole tank crashed, and I've never had a tank crash before. You know, I've upgraded, moved tanks a bazillion times. You know, I've, you know, bought parts of tank teardowns from like hours away, transported them. I've never had a big issue with that. So this was a very heartbreaking experience for me. But the next day, you know, I'm reaching out to a couple buddies. You know, one of my LFSs, I took a bunch of coral and put it in their tank to see if, you know, maybe I can save some of the stuff in it. And I put some corals in this tank behind me to see if I can save some of it. And not all, but I'm going to say 90% of the corals and everything bit the dust, which is heartbreaking. Some of those fish and corals I've had for, you know, 8 or 9 years. And, you know, even like the one on the, I'm going to throw on the thumbnail, but that massive colony of orange passion, you know, I grew from a little pinky frig to like this massive thing, you know, and that one I threw it in my tank. And the next day, you know, that night, this whole tank behind me was all super cloudy. So it's like, frig. So there came the point where I just had to toss some of these corals because they were just, you know, peeling, or they're just, you know, taking out other stuff. So that was rough. And yeah, so essentially took out most of the contents. Now, I don't know what it was. I partially think that maybe just the amount of coral and fish. I put it 100, they were in a 200-gallon tank. They went to 150-gallon trough tank. And you think that would be close enough. One thing in retrospect, I didn't have a skimmer in there. I wish I would have, because I'm assuming some of the corals are stressed out. They're releasing toxins, starting to slime off. That would have helped with that. But this was in the course of, you know, less than 12 hours. So whatever happened, happened fast. You know, I don't know if it's like some nasty zoas or pallies or something that toxined out. You know, maybe something self-spawning. Don't know. Something set off, got super cloudy, stressed out other stuff, and it was just kind of cascading downhill from there. Now, the crazy thing is, though, I took a bunch of the rock and coral and put it in one of my LFS's display tank, and stuff in their tank started going downhill as well. So something was definitely nasty or releasing or definitely up. So, you know, I went in there the next day and I'm helping them water change the tanks and pulling all the coral that I know is on its way out. But yeah, man, it was absolutely heartbreaking. You know, my massive head, you know, of all my like 40 or so dragon silhouette torches, you know, you see that in the morning, all fleshed back is receded in. So it's like heartbreaking to toss this stuff. So it sucked. But essentially, out of, you know, 10 plus years of reefing, I've never had a tank crash until now, and it is in my temporary bin. So that sucked. But that's been my week. A couple of days of dealing with that and restarting it out. You know, obviously doing all the flooring and leveling and all that jazz now, but that was on hold for a couple of days, trying to save as much as I could. And, you know, some of my Gonnies, you know, some of the Favias, stuff like that's okay. The Space Invader Pectina, you know, that one's 50-50. That one's going to pull. It's definitely receded, but that has hope of bouncing back. And some of those, but like all my acros are basically done. You know, most of my LPS are basically done. You know, much of my fish, you know, same thing. So it's been a rough, heartbreaking week, but here we are. So that's been my chaos of the week. Want to give you guys a quick update on it. Bit depressing, but basically means, at least on the new tank, I'm not going to be as rushed with it. I'm going to take my time and probably just start it as like a brand new tank from scratch and do new rock, new everything, and basically start it as like a brand new tank build. Since, you know, most of it's, you know, living in this tank was alive and some of my LFS's tank. But yeah, it's been heartbreaking. You know, retrospect, if I could have changed things to do it again, I had multiple power heads in there. I had it blowing out the surface, tons of surface agitation, tons of good flow in there. I think there was something in the tank that, was stressed out, released, on some toxin, something in the water. There was nothing to fully pull it out. I never would expect it to happen in such a short period of time, which to me is crazy. Over weeks in there, right? Not over, less than 12 hours, 6 to 12 hours until all this happened. So yeah, definitely it can happen. Retrospect, I wish I had multiple bins, so if something happened in one, it wouldn't affect the other ones. Realistically, I feel like I wish I had a skim in there as well, just to help with aeration, as well as pulling out any, coral toxins or slimes and stuff that they're releasing. But yeah, I don't know, so it's crazy. A couple of retrospect things, and yeah, this is where we're at. So new tank, I guess, coming and build in the future. Bit heartbreaking, but at least it's a good chance with the new one to start everything from fresh and do a new build. So happens to the best of us. And yeah, that's my madness of the week. So you guys are in the loop of the trials and tribulations and chaos of reefing madness. So yeah, as always, guys, you enjoyed my sad story, hit the like button. You're new, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, stay tuned, because not one thing gonna let put me down. I'm still love this hobby, still love everything. I've been in it for 10 plus years, and I'm just gonna restart, get the new tank going, and life will be good again, slowly but surely. All right, guys, catch you on the next video.